It's time, you guys.
Was that dramatic enough?
That was dramatic enough. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 32 Principles Unveiling. There will only ever be one unveiling of the 32 Principles.
Yes, and this is it.
This has never been done before, and it will never happen again. And make no mistake about it. If you're like 99.99% of the BJJ practicing population, today will be the most important jiu-jitsu class of your life.
What?
Hidon. Well, for sure we can say that it's the most important class we're ever going to teach or ever have. Is it too much to say that it's the most important class they're ever going to do?
I don't think so. It's not too much to say.
And we're not trying to be disrespectful. Like, we've been around for a long time, you guys.
This is the class.
This is the class. And why isn't it disrespectful that we're proposing that it be that heavy?
I mean, and we're okay with anybody else saying that they're going to teach
can say whatever they want.
The most important class.
I'd like to watch it.
And I'll watch it, and I'm ready to learn. But in this case, why is this class the most important class ever?
Ever.
In jiu-jitsu. Because this class is going to change the way. It's going to allow anybody, any one of you, to look at jiu-jitsu the way that masters look at jiu-jitsu.
What do you mean by that?
There are some people, there are some trailblazers, some masters.
I love that. Trailblazers, the grandmasters.
Yes.
Affiliation leaders. Like
people who've been around forever.
Icons in jiu-jitsu. The ones who are paving new paths, who are innovating and developing new techniques and new systems and taking jiu-jitsu by the horns and just riding it in their own directions. That's what we're referring to. Those people have something unique about them.
Yes. And this is going to be the class that's going to potentially unlock that so you can also become a master. Now, they might be white belts or blue belts or brown belts.
Yeah, that's true. Is it too much power too soon?
No. You can become a master at any stage of the game.
You can, you guys. And here we are to talk about efficiency. The apex principle of jiu-jitsu. We've been training our whole lives. And when we were little kids, all we ever heard about was efficiency, and in Portuguese by our grandfather, eficiencia. This is everything. And everyone knows that efficiency is that goal from every position or technique in jiu-jitsu. Okay, that's always what we're aiming for.
And what we've stumbled across, what we've discovered, is that there are 32 micro principles that make efficiency possible from any position, from any situation.
That's why we're here. The easiest way to understand it is the tree analogy, right? If you think of a tree, right? The tree trunk are the foundational techniques that you would need, the basics that you would need in a street fight against another untrained person who attacks you. It's basics. Gracie Combatives 36. It's quite simple. The trunk, stable, root, and solid. It doesn't change very much because what you would need in that fight is very limited. It doesn't change much. The branches of the jiu-jitsu tree are the advanced techniques that you would need, right? That you would need to fight someone else who knows jiu-jitsu, where it's like tit for tat, we're going and coming back and forth and trying to outdo each other. The chess match of jiu-jitsu happens in those branches, and the leaves are the endless variations. And what's crazy is, like leaves on a tree, when the fall comes, the leaves fall, the winter, and they disappear, and then they come back and new leaves grow. So the leaves are coming and going. There's always going to be techniques that are being invented and then disregarded and forgotten, and like those tree leaves are always changing. But here's what's crazy. Not only the trunk and the branches and all the leaves are all only made possible by the roots of the jiu-jitsu tree. And they represent the 32 principles of jiu-jitsu that we're going to discuss today. So in terms of like placing this in your mind, this is what we're talking about. As important as the roots are to a tree, the principles are to your development in jiu-jitsu. And then one might ask, well, how soon should I start embedding my roots into the soil? The answer is on day one. Yes. But presently in jiu-jitsu, that doesn't happen. And that's why we're here today, to talk about why it's not happening, to teach you how to ensure your roots are being rooted, and it doesn't matter why they're doing jiu-jitsu.
No, you could be doing jiu-jitsu. For many of us, it's for self-defense. Of course, we want to learn to defend ourselves, and these are going to be the principles that are going to help you. But it may be, you may be an athlete. It may be competition jiu-jitsu, maybe MMA. We don't know. It could be for exercise. Whatever it is, they're the same governing principles for whatever reason you choose to use jiu-jitsu.
And what's wild is this realization, as in terms of developing this curriculum, some people are like, yo, when did this start? The answer is our whole lives and our grandfather's life and our father and our uncles. all our lives, we were around these principles.
Yeah, we always saw techniques that would come and go. Like you mentioned,
Yes.
the leaves, they come and go and they change. And you're doing something for 2 or 3 years and then you're not doing it anymore. And your body can't move that way. But the principles are timeless.
It was clear that there were some universal underlying principles that just lived there. So we were, through osmosis, we were swimming in the water of principles our whole lives. What had never been done is there was never a formalized curriculum that laid them out, named them all, put them in order, and said, these are what they are. When you label something, it's so much more real in your life. So initially, this began over a year ago, basically at the beginning of COVID, right? Principles our whole lives, but at the beginning of COVID, we started formulating, because it was for our purple to brown belt curriculum in the Gracie University online curriculum, where people learn online from anywhere in the world. We have students who are doing 100% online with the training partner, and then at certain milestones, once they learn techniques and amazing things, they go test for a belt promotion at a certified training center, live evaluation for these belts. But the point is, we have this online curriculum that's organized linearly from A to Z, from white to black belt. And for purple to brown, we were like, man, we don't just want to show more techniques. Let's teach the principles that make every technique possible. So that was our mindset for purple to brown curriculum, is like, give them something much deeper than any technique ever will be. So we started working, and our collaboration team of black belts, of certified instructors from all over the world, guys that we share the mats with all the time, our minds went together and we started collaborating and we started extrapolating and getting in positions. And here we are 8 months later, after the initial kind of attempt at that, 8 months later, we had formulated that curriculum, the 32 micro principles. And we're not talking about, leverage, timing, pressure. We're not talking the very broad ones like that.
Yes.
These are the micro principles that actually 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 of them make every technique possible in different combinations. But what happened was, we did it. And then what happened?
Well, we filmed it while we're filming it, but for sure, once we completed the course, you look at what was made and we're like, hold on. Who needs this right here? Is it people that are going from purple to brown belts? Or does the new student who's been training for 2 weeks at a school somewhere around the world, could they benefit from this? When is it? Is it ever too early to be exposed to what we just recorded? And the answer is no.
It was too good. Yes. We were so happy with the result. And we put it this way, all we felt was, man, we're proud to have created it, but man, we wish we would have had it laid out like this for us. Am I right? That's what I was like, gosh, if I had this as a blue belt, someone that just fully A to Z, 32P, lined it up, man, it would have been a game changer. Versus us having to discover those all on our own through trial and error and injury and suffering. If we just had it laid out for us, it would have made life so much easier. And this is evolution, you guys. What one generation suffers, the next generation should not. And the fact that we had to extrapolate the 32Ps through so much trial and error was done, fortunately now, so that you guys don't have to. And once we realized that it was too good to be restricted exclusively to the GU online purple to brown, that's a very niche audience, right? I mean, a few thousand people, but the people who get to that point in the curriculum and it's that tight, like it's a very specific place to be online, learning from home, and you made it all the way past purple belt, right? Testing at a CTC, and then now you want to learn purple to brown, the 32Ps. It's too niche. We can't.
There are thousands of people, thousands and thousands and thousands embark on the jiu-jitsu journey, and then they stop.
Oh, you guys.
It could be 3 months in, it could be 3 weeks, could be 3 years in.
Right.
And what you talked about is the idea of us, we didn't have it laid out for us, but having it laid out for us would have made it a little bit easier, and we would have potentially created something else during this COVID time.
Yeah.
But it worked out great. The point is that there are people out there right now that are 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 years in the game, and your ability to have access to this information is only gonna make the absorb. It's gonna change everything. This, once again, is what makes it the most important class of your jiu-jitsu conversation life period.
Listen, if you've never learned how to learn jiu-jitsu, today you're gonna learn how to learn. Everyone's focused on doing jiu-jitsu. I teach you a move, a trap and roll, you're doing jiu-jitsu. The trap and roll doesn't teach you how to learn jiu-jitsu, so that every subsequent trap and roll you learn is seen through a different lens. That is what the 32 principles will provide, and we hope to unlock today. Today's launch day, you guys. June 26, 2021, the 32 principles were unleashed to the world. And today only, you should know, and we'll remind you this at the end, the 32 principles course, part 1, right? We've divided into 4 parts, 8 principles per part. Part 1 is released today, part 2 in a month, part 3 a month after that, part 4 a month after that, to give you time to digest based on the magnitude of what we're talking about here. So 30 days apart per part. And today only, you're going to have a chance to buy part 1 at over 25% off. Originally, each part of the course was going to cost $120. I'm like, yo, it has to be $120. The value is too great. You know, this is the most important curriculum in history of jiu-jitsu. $120 for part 1, 120, 120, 120. And then Kenny was like, Henner. Kenny's our digital marketing guru black belt. Kenny was like, Henner, it's true. It's worth more than that. But you got to go lower if you really want to impact the people so it becomes accessible to more people. And I'm like, Kenny, you're tripping. He's like, no, you have to do it. So we went lower. So we went to $80 per part. $80 for part 1, $80, $80, $80 for each part, which is about $10 a principle. That's going to change your life forever. And then Kenny was like, yeah, Henry, that's exciting. But on the launch day, you have some loyal friends and students around the world who are going to tune in. They deserve a little extra. And I'm like, Kenny, you're killing me, bro. So we decided to do $59 on launch day alone for the 32 Principles Part 1. And when you do that, you'll also have the chance to pre-order the rest of it at the same discount today only. Now, in addition, we decided to add some bonuses because Kenny wouldn't let us get away without doing that.
Street choke.
Street choke mastery, you guys. Tell them what that happened that day.
We did a seminar. It was a while back. It was a seminar for charity. We recorded the whole thing. We taught
hundreds of students in the house.
How many chokes do we teach?
16.
16 chokes. None of them rely on the gi. We're using t-shirts,
tank tops, hoodies,
to choke people. So in terms
amazing.
of the value and in terms of the excitement and the positive feedback that we got about this seminar, people couldn't believe it.
People couldn't believe it.
Like, well, how can you choke someone so many times when they're only wearing a t-shirt or a tank top?
And here's what we concluded, that a t-shirt is the most chokeable street item of clothing. In other words, if I were going to fight one of you guys, I'd prefer you be wearing a t-shirt than a gi. That's how amazingly chokeable a t-shirt is if you see that one. The point is,
it's yours.
We included it for free today with the 25% off 32 Principles Part 1. So the value alone of that street choke is $85. And what's wild is we're including it for free, more than the value. So it doesn't even make sense. Why are you doing that? Because we want you to have no excuse not to join the curriculum that will change everything for you for the rest of your jiu-jitsu life. We can't, as people who love jiu-jitsu and love what it's doing for people, I don't care who you train with, we can't afford for you not to have the 32 principles. Now, we got bills to pay, so we have to charge something, but we want the world to have this curriculum, and this is how we're going to make it happen. The 32 Principles Handbook, you guys. The PDF downloadable handbook is coming in, and what's awesome is this is a great resource because inside the handbook, you're going to download it, print it, and you're going to bind it yourself. Every page has the graphics of the principle, all the details of the principle, so you can have this on the mat. And this is amazing because when you're training and you're trying to infuse the 32 principles into your training, you want to have resources to make it very easy to flip through. Oh yeah, what principle is that again? Especially if you're actually going through the Gracie University curriculum, where there are certain expectations at certain milestones that you have to actually know this material. We have expectations of you, and the handbook will make it very easy. If you're not going through GU curriculum and not going through for official Gracie University belt promotions for live testing at a CTC, then this handbook is simply an amazing resource that you can review when you don't have your videos accessible to you.
And finally, we went on a vacation about 2 years ago.
You guys.
Myself, Henner, our children, and our wives. We went on was it 5 days? Who knows what it was. But we went to the Hard Rock Maldives.
And this is like the tropical of all tropicals in the Maldives. You're over the water bungalow.
It's the place to go.
Our friend Toga, who runs the whole hotel, he said, Henry, you guys are putting out 32 principles. We're so excited, because they're a jiu-jitsu hotel. We're so excited that we want to give away, right, to anyone who purchases the 32 principles on launch day. We want to give away a lottery, essentially. Once you make the purchase of 32 principles today, you enter the lottery to win 7 days. All-inclusive at the Hard Rock Hotel Maldives.
It's the kind of water that you go in and then you don't even want to get out. An hour and a half later, you're still in the ocean.
Heated pool water. That's what it is. And then you're going to stay on an over-the-water bungalow, and you jump from the pool. In your bungalow has a pool, and you jump from the pool into the ocean water, and then you climb back up the ladder and do it again.
And then you go eat breakfast, and the buffet is like the buffet of all buffets.
And it's amazing.
And you just can't stop eating.
Really good food. The best chefs, and you guys, it's all included. Food, drinks, and the hotel for 2 Again, once you make the purchase of 32p today, you enter the lottery, and we're going to make a drawing, and we're going to pull someone, and we're going to announce it this Wednesday who wins the vacation. You got to pay for flights, but everything else, once you get there, is taken care of.
Most importantly is, as you're enjoying this hotel, you're going to walk over to the red mat. You're going to do jiu-jitsu at the hotel with some of the staff, and you're going to feel the amazing energy. It's an island, so it's island energy, and they're doing jiu-jitsu. It's amazing. We went, we trained there, we loved it.
You guys, that's going down today. So at any point, if you've heard enough and you're excited and 32p is going to be your new DNA, just go, scroll down, go to the32principles.com, make your purchase for part 1. But the truth is, I want you to stick around to the end because we're going to change everything right now. Here's the plan for today. We're going to take you guys through a mini masterclass on the power of principle-based learning, okay? We're gonna do that first, and then we're gonna unveil the 32 principles, okay? We're gonna talk about each one of them. We're gonna share them with you. You're not gonna master every one of them, but you're gonna know what all 32 principles are, and that's what we hope to accomplish today, okay? Masterclass on the 32 Ps, and then the unveiling of the 32 principles so that you know what to expect going forward, okay? And then we're gonna wrap this party up, and then at that point, you can make your purchase, 32 Principles Part 1, and then let us know how it goes. Trust me, we want to hear because it changed everything for us. Everything is tighter because of this. So let's talk about this concept of principle-based learning. Let's talk about
why.
Yeah, why?
There's a question. There's something that many of us, most all of us that spend time on the mat, we see different people doing jiu-jitsu, and we hear about different people, and there are some people that get referred to as naturals.
The naturals.
Whether it's other training partners or the instructor, like, yeah, that guy's a natural, she's a natural, look how they move, there's something about them. But listen, not everybody gets referred to as a natural.
Most don't.
Most do not. And why is it? Why is it that some do and most don't?
And there's no correlation between naturals and rank. Am I right?
Correct.
Or size, or gender. There's no correlation.
No, there are some blue belts, white belts.
And blue belts, so you go, man, this guy's gonna be fire.
They figured it out.
And there's some purple, brown, and black belts where you go, oh man, it's gonna be a long journey for them.
Well, they're really good, but they're
dedicated.
They're really dedicated.
But it's not coming
They
together.
know the moves, but something's not there.
You guys, so there's something so interesting: the naturals versus the nons. That's the question.
And what is it? And the answer can be summarized into one word.
Principles.
Of course.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. The people who develop a relationship with the principles of jiu-jitsu learn techniques more easily. They apply techniques more naturally when they're sparring. And when they end up in situations for which they don't have a technique, they improvise more effectively. Does that sound familiar? When you see someone who they just improvise, or they look so smooth, or they learn the move and they're applying it right away. We've all seen that person. Whether you're that person or not, we've all seen it on the mat. And we go, man, they're just a natural, right? How do they do this, right? It doesn't matter what you're training for. Gi, no gi, MMA. Once you connect with the principles, everything clicks and everything simply makes more sense.
Let's do it.
So our objective today is simple: to prove to you guys right now through demonstration that making the transition to principle-based learning as an entirely new operating system for your jiu-jitsu is the single most important decision you will ever make on the mat. This is it. There isn't even a second place, okay? Because once you make this transition, it doesn't matter who you learn from, where you learn from, your lens, your filter on jiu-jitsu will be completely altered to where you're going to take more from less than you ever have. No matter what jiu-jitsu you're exposed to, it's going to impact you more greatly because of the filter through which you're running those inbound techniques. The experiences of jiu-jitsu are going to feel completely different.
Let's talk about simplifying.
The learning process.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to.
Give us an example. So get into a technique?
Yeah, and the question is, how you guys, in your own experience of jiu-jitsu, how often does someone teach a move?
Yes.
And you go like this.
Oh, man, it's a lot of steps.
Right? Like, holy moly. That's a lot. It's a very normal thing.
Am I going to remember that in 5 minutes? Am I going to remember that tomorrow, next year? I'm a little overwhelmed by what's being taught to me right now.
I don't know if I can hang on this. And we see it in their faces. When I show a move and I look at the crowd, I'll see 74 faces. And I'll see some people like this. Like, here we go. Good luck to myself, because I don't know what the heck they're talking about. And he just said however number of steps, and they're confused. So we're going to do a demonstration right now, and I want you guys to watch this like you would normally watch jiu-jitsu. Yes. And then after we demonstrate a technique, we're going to show you the two types of learners that exist and make some very important comparisons. Make sure your door is locked, your dogs are taken care of, your kids are being watched, and you guys have enough battery in your phone or your computer because we're about to go real right now, and you need to ride with us to the end, okay? This is the part where you don't leave the ride once it begins. You're all the way with us, you guys. Yes. Check this out. So Hidon is down. Let's imagine that today's technique that I want to teach, okay, is this. Figure 4 armbar from the Americana setup on a neck hug. Check this out. Okay, that's jiu-jitsu. Everyone saw it. Everyone retained different details. Everyone interacts with that their own way. And here's what we need to understand. There's two types of learners here. Cole, check this out. There's two types of learners in this situation. Okay? And this is what we have to understand. We'll call student A and student B, just to keep it simple. Mm-hmm. Student A is someone who learns based on memory. Student B is a student who learns based on principles. We're going to compare the two. So student A, which most people are in the world, see this technique. And now I'm going to teach the technique, and we're going to see how student A interprets the technique and tries to internalize it, okay? So check this out. Step 1, hug the neck with the backside hand. Step 2, with the front side hand, grab the wrist and pin it to the ground. Step 3, if you need additional help, open your hip, rotate your wrist around, push the wrist out so you have more leverage, pin it to the ground. Step 4, push it away so he resists, and then bring it back in and then grab my own wrist. Step 5, hand off the wrist. Step 6, come underneath, palm up. Step 7, grab my wrist, no thumb. Remove the second thumb, step 8. Lift his elbow, step 9. Shoot the knee up. Walk the foot up into the armpit, inverting the other side. Hug the arm with the north hand.
10, 11,
12, 13. Arm stiff over here. 14, leg comes over. Grab, hold, and connect here. Drive the hips up, pull the wrist down, thrust, and we're good to go. So, student A, that's how they see it. That's how they teach it. And that's how they absorb jiu-jitsu, okay? Here's where we are. Student B, a principle-based learner, the exact same technique. This is how they perceive, observe, and absorb the exact same technique. Check this out. Pivot, frame, overload. Pivot, frame, overload.
What? What's a pivot? What's a frame? What's an overload? Explain this to us.
Yes, you guys. So here's the deal. Principle-based learners simplify in very powerful ways, which is how they can retain and apply so much of what they learn. So, pivot principle. Check this out. We grab the wrists, okay? And what was previously interpreted by the student A, memory-based learner, as 15 steps, student B really saw it as 3 principles: pivot, frame, and overload. Now, pivot principle. The pivot principle teaches that by merely changing the angle relative to another body part, you increase the effectiveness. So if I'm going to try to put Hidon's wrist on the ground, from here I have no leverage. But by merely pivoting around the axis of his wrist, I have triple, quadruple, 10 times the leverage. Now the frame teaches, the frame is another principle, teaches the principle, the concept of substituting muscular strength with skeletal structure. So by putting my forearm bones between my pelvis and Hidon's wrist, I'm going to use my pelvis, look, to push Hidon's wrist to the ground. Boom. Okay? So that was the frame. I'm using the structure of my forearm to drive his arm to the ground. Now the overload principle. From here, I'm moving his arm. Eventually, I hand it off. And now I'm using 2 of my grips against 1 of Hidon's. That's the disproportionate application of resources to control or defeat your opponent. So the overload principle in this situation. And it could be for a submission, it could be for a control, or anything under the sun, really. So overload principle. And then from here, he fights a little bit, he'll eventually tire. Now I hand it off, I come under, and we go. Check this out. Now, another pivot. I'm going to pivot my hips around Hidon's shoulder. Pivot. Look. And now, once we're in the S-mount here, look. Frame. Another lockout. The skeletal structure of my arm, keeping Hidon from closing his head positioning so that I can make my leg step over. So frame. Overload. My legs disproportionately controlling his body, and then 2 arms against 1 right here for nice control, and then, of course, the hyperextension of the elbow.
So the question is, which one of these 2 students, right? Student A, who remembered 15 steps, Or student B, who distilled everything down to 3 principles. Who's going to remember this?
Right.
3 days, 3 months, 3 years down the road.
That is the question, ladies and gentlemen. So principle-based learners have a method of distilling everything they're seeing, and a system, which we're going to discuss today, of distilling everything they're seeing down to what actually matters. And in every technique, the only thing that actually matters are the principles. And in this case, pivot, frame, overload. So that gives you a good sense of how learning can be so much easier.
Yes.
Right? If you're looking at it and you go, wow, that's not 15 steps, that's just 3 principles. Imagine how much more you can retain and how much longer it will stick.
Yes, it's so much simpler.
It just simplifies the learning. Now, here's what's wild. Besides simplifying the learning process, because the principle-based learner, student B, forget the student B, it should be student P.
Student P.
We love that. Student principle. Besides the ease of learning the techniques, student P can apply those techniques that they learn much more naturally when sparring, because they're not restricted by the circumstantial, highly specific steps of a technique, but rather empowered and freed by the dynamic universal applicability of those 3 principles. Because the thing is, it's very different, right, when you're sparring.
How often are we taught something in class, and then when you go to spar, the situation is a little bit different. You're not presented the exact same situation. Very often, jiu-jitsu is dynamic. Things are fluid. So student P takes those 3 principles, and they're much more likely to be able to adapt to the new situation.
Because things change, whether the position changes, the opponent changes, right? One move, one technique on 5 opponents is 5 techniques.
A little different.
It's different, right? So positions, speed, timing, everything changes in the sparring to where rarely do we do the technique as we learned it. Let's give another example of that. So let's say Hidon is down, and I'm here in a knee on belly situation, okay? And I want to submit him, If I'm student A, and let's say I'm going to go knee on belly, but I'm going to put my foot down just so I can talk to you guys while we're here. Let's say I'm student A, and I'm not putting too much pressure. Let's say I'm student A. And I just learned the neck hug, Americana, figure 4 armbar transition. I just learned that, so I'm like, heck yeah, stoked. When I land the knee on belly, this is how student A thinks. And if you resonate with this, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, put a smiley face somewhere, because for sure you've experienced this, right? Where you're now sparring, where I achieve knee on belly, I pass his guard, and in my mind I'm going like this. Okay, I need to hug the neck, I need to grab a wrist, I need to isolate some. Oh my gosh, nothing works the way I learned it. Oh my gosh. So here I am trying to make sense of the 15 steps that I just learned. I'm trying to formulate and put them together and make it work on my opponent. Not to realize that, man, I'm not even in the mount, number 1. Number 2, if I try the same move from here, it might not work. So he's trying to memorize steps and make context out of what really isn't the same exact thing that he or she learned.
Or complaining about how I'm not really in the mount.
I know.
And I can't quite do the move, but I want to do the move. I should be able to. I want to win.
There you go. So while they're here fighting for 15 steps to make sense that are not the same steps because it's not the same position,
they lose control.
They lose everything.
Everything falls apart.
In that same situation, the student P, who is 100% principles to the DNA, student P lands in this situation after learning the same technique from the mount and sees things completely differently. Check this out. Hidon's here. It's hard to go. Look. Pivot, frame, overload. Pivot, frame, overload. Isn't that crazy? You guys, this is what's so wild. Here's what's crazy. The very same technique was not applicable from a different position. So the second the situation changed, that technique from the mount, from knee on belly, is useless. But the principles that made that mount technique possible are 100% applicable to the new situation that we're in. I don't think I'm excited enough.
The principles followed you. Kept the principles.
The principles followed. Now here's what's wild. Even the purpose of the principles was the same.
Yes.
So remember when I told you that principle the first time, what we did when we were mounted, we pivoted around the axis of his wrist to have a greater leverage to push it out. But when I was knee on belly, Hidon grabbed his wrist, restricting me from pushing it that way. So watch this. I grab this wrist, and I'm going to pivot around the axis of this wrist, but do so by doing a knee on belly switch. Hand on the ground, knee on belly switch. Look. So I pivoted. Now I have this angle. And then the frame, instead of it being frame elbow to pelvis, I did a full lockout. So now it's connecting to my shoulder all the way through using the skeletal structure, because here is muscle, here is alavanca and structure. And then I drove my weight Boom. When Hidon went to go defend that, I overloaded his top arm with my chest. So I'm still using disproportionate use of my body to control or immobilize one of his limbs. So boom, I'm just overwhelming him with my body here. And then look, I control double wrist grab behind the neck. Once again, overloading his wrist control here. Okay, and then from here I loop around, pivot the arm, framing the neck with my humerus bone to keep his head down. And then while leaning slightly south, my leg rotates, I lean north, my back knee comes up, and we're good to go. And then from here, same overload finish. So what's wild is the purposes of the pivots in this technique, even though the move was different, the pivots, the principles were the same, and the purposes of those principles were also the same. It was change the angle, get the arm out to isolate the limb. So that was a very direct transfer of
the application
and
of the principles
and the purpose why we were using those principles. So level 1 is to know a principle exists. Level 2 is to take that principle where you use it in one situation or technique and apply the same principle for the same purpose in a different position or technique. But there is a level 3. The highest level of relationship with the principle is when you understand how to use the same principle for endless purposes.
And this is where we talk about how jiu-jitsu strengthens our ability to improvise and to create, because we, for as long as we have been on the mat, we have seen our grandfather and our uncles and our father, we've seen them improvise, which kind of gave us the almost like the confidence to improvise. Because think about someone, for example, who lands in a position,
bad news,
and has never been in a certain situation before. What do they do when they find themselves in a new place? Usually we panic. People panic. They overreact because they're afraid of what might happen to them. And this panic creates what? It exhausts you. And exhausting yourself is almost, my grandfather used to say it's worse
than getting tapped out.
To exhaust yourself than it is to lose in an arm lock or a choke. Because when you're exhausted, you have nothing left. And that's what happens when you don't have this ability to improvise on the fly. And this relationship with the principles, you overreact and you burn out.
So for us personally, our ability to improvise,
it's huge.
Because of our comfort and relationship with the principles, is truly the core of our comfort in jiu-jitsu, right? It's not how many moves we memorized. It's our certainty that no matter where we land, we will, it's like that's in our mind, that's what makes us who we are, and the confidence that we have in jiu-jitsu isn't how many moves we've memorized. It's how comfortable we feel in any situation, even unknown ones, because we know we won't exhaust, we won't deplete wastefully, because we will always be operating within the guidelines of the 32 principles.
Yes, and when we find this comfort, when you're comfortable, then you can relax. And when you relax is when you are truly, truly tapping into efficiency.
Yes, welcome back to the Apex Principle. But here's what's wild. This high-level improvisation that many of you have witnessed with, world-class jiu-jitsu practitioners or master instructors, right, of any kind. This high-level improvisation requires you not just to know what the 32 principles are, but for each of the 32, you have to know the full range of purposes for which the principles can be used. Because if you only know 32 principles and you think each one only has one purpose, like we just only have talking about, even though we saw 2 techniques right now, 2 different positions, we only talked about one purpose for each of the principles.
And frame and
so overload. Now the next step, the third level of mastery of a principle is when you start to understand all the purposes for which it can be applied. So let's do this. Let's isolate one of our 3 principles. Let's go with the pivot principle. Okay? The pivot principle can be used for so much more than simply changing the angle so that you can push someone's wrist away from their body in the attempt to catch a submission. Way more. And we're going to discover together how that's possible. We're going to do this by quizzing them. Let's do a quiz. Okay? Now we're going to trust that you guys are trustworthy and that you're going to give your own answers, and you're going to talk to the screen right now because we can't hear you. But we're going to trust that you're going to give us a vote, okay? So when we show a situation, you're going to give a vote. And what we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate 5 techniques. In each one of these techniques, we want to see if you guys can identify simple techniques. Can you identify where the pivot took place? What is the pivot? Number 1. And number 2, much more importantly, what was the purpose of the pivot in that particular instance or technique? Very important.
do it.
That's the most important part. Because by the time we're done, there'll have been 5 pivots for 5 different purposes. And then you're going to go like this. You're going to start to understand the power of principle-based learning. Okay? So let's do it. Hidon's down. I'm going to mount on you, Hidon. We'll do it one time. No talking, so we don't want to give it away, the technique or the situation. So we're just going to frame it for you guys. I'm going to mount on Hidon. I'm going to post my hands out very wide, like a very base conscious mount person.
Happens all the time.
Guys just splay out, right? So I'm going to splay out. I don't want to get removed from the top, and Hidon will want to escape. First, he'll just demonstrate. Okay. Was there a pivot, yes or no?
Yep.
Answer us. I need them to answer. You can keep that general frame there, Cole. Yeah. Was there a pivot, yes or no? Yes, there was a pivot. You saw something turn. Why? What was the purpose of the pivot in this particular case? Okay, this was a mount escape. What was the purpose? What did the pivot accomplish? It wasn't an isolation of a limb pushed away from the body like we talked about in the submission acquisition situation.
So Henry has his hooks in, hands out wide. I want to trap and roll him. I can't just simply collapse his arm. Instead, I block his arm. I walk my legs away, and I slip underneath him. By doing that, it takes away the angle of the post that he had. Now, when he removes his arm, I trap it. So the purpose, removing my hook, I can finish the trap and roll. The purpose was to off-balance him.
Yes! To eliminate that base point of mine, he got it. Now, to get in my guard, let's do another one.
Yes.
Another one that's submission related, but a little trickier. So we're in the bottom of the guard, okay? I want to catch a submission, and Hidon doesn't want to let me. So check it out. Was there a pivot, ladies and gentlemen? Of course there was, because that's what we're quizzing you on.
It's the pivot quiz.
It's the pivot quiz. There's always a pivot. The question is, think right now, before we show you guys and explain it, what was the purpose of the pivot? Give it a name. What was the purpose? Well, let's start by identifying what was Hidon trying to accomplish.
Yes, go ahead. Don't pivot once.
Okay, good point.
He doesn't pivot. I run forward.
Stack, you
And
lose
I
everything.
stack him.
The whole power of my technique is eliminated if he stacks my cervical spine directly over my head and neck. My whole body gets weak. It's a standard stacking escape. So what happens is when I'm here in the armbar and I have it, I take my inside hand, I reach in, I check his thigh, I look to the outside, and I pivot off of his leg completely under, and now, just by changing my angle relative to Hidon, I was able to avoid the stack. Do you understand? Because I was able to survive because
You're protecting your neck.
boom, survival, stack avoidance, and keep the submission. But once again, a completely different in breaking someone's balance, or in the submission that we first saw, isolating a limb away from someone's body, but all pivot principle applications. What else do we got?
Let's do one standing up. Let's talk about pivots.
I'm gonna blast you.
Ooh.
Oh, slow down,
So
dude.
front kick attack. If I'm standing casual and he comes in step, boom, kick to my stomach. I didn't use the pivot, but if I do this, go ahead one more time. I let my body pivot. Not only do I avoid the kick, but I'm also set up. So I avoid the strike, and I'm also set up
Just
to strike.
one of our grandfather's favorite self-defense, the front kick defense. You just a beautifully timed pivot. So if we had to say what was the purpose of this pivot, right? My hand is coming, my foot's coming to his stomach. By redirecting my strike, he redirects my energy. He neutralizes the strike, and he lives to tell the story another day. Okay, and then we move into the spider guard right here. Check this out. So Hidon has this on, and he's in my guard. Another purpose of another pivot, guys. Check it out. Hidon's in my guard, and I want to sweep him. Okay, so I control the sleeves right here. Maybe bring my knees inside, foot on the bicep, hip out, leg up. And then we come up, okay? Very basic kneeling spider guard sweep. What happened? What was the pivot? What was the purpose? Was there a pivot?
The pivot was huge.
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 Purpose. Let's check it out. Let's check it out. So I go here, I hip out, my knees come in. I'm controlling his sleeves, controlling obviously a gi technique. Foot on the bicep, extended connection. Other foot not on the bicep. I hip out. I kick my leg out. I lift this leg as a pendulum. I'm going to throw it to the ground as hard as I can. And after I throw it, I'm going to sit up and let my head whip across to the opposite side. But watch how the throwing of this leg and the whipping of my body, because right now if I try to sweep Hidon, there's nothing. But watch this. When this one goes up, down, now I have momentum.
Oh, you said it.
Momentum.
You're supposed to quiz them.
Hopefully they threw it out at the camera already in advance. The point is that pivoting of my body by throwing my body in one direction, delaying the activation of the spider guard sweep, and then kicking that sweep at the end and slicing his bottom leg out of the way.
Tremendous momentum.
Beautiful
Not
technique.
just momentum.
And again, a very sportive technique,
Yes.
but beautiful technique nonetheless, and a perfect pivot principle application for the use of momentum. Completely different from every other purpose we've already discussed. They need one more.
One more.
Let's do it.
Mount position. I'm wearing a gi. I'm in the full mount. I get low, and here I am. Boom.
Ah, please don't make him do that again. I'm kidding.
So, top of the mount. Feed the lapel underneath his neck. Killer V choke. Grab my own lapel right here. As I dismount, I step off and I walk. I circle. And now I turn, open my body. What was the purpose of that pivot?
This one right here on top of me.
Okay.
You guys,
Tremendous pressure.
a tourniquet, you guys. He essentially created a tourniquet around my neck, and that was a beautiful pivot principle application. But again, purpose was pressure accumulation, right? When you have a fixed object and then you have a rope tied to it, and then you twist it like a tourniquet, you build pressure, and if that pressure is released on the subject's neck, we'll call that worst case scenario for them. Hit on.
So look at these reasons.
Yeah, like
Purposes.
yes.
Purposes. For
First one, balance. Second one, survival, avoiding the stack and coming through on that right there, right?
avoiding the strike.
Strike prevention, plop, momentum for the sweep, right? And then of course, pressure accumulation for the choke here. Basic techniques. If you've been training for any number of years, all of these are familiar to you. The question is, have you ever looked at those ones and said, yep, those are all pivot principle applications. Further, they're unique purposes of the same principle. If you haven't looked at it through that lens, you haven't lived in jiu-jitsu. You haven't lived your fullest life yet. That's how much excitement awaits you once you understand how to see it, because here's what's wild. That's just one principle.
And that's not even all the purposes.
No!
That was just 5.
That's what's so crazy, you guys. But here's the whole point. Once you understand that this is where you should be sitting right now. Henry, Hidon, this is how you should be feeling. Are you telling me that there's 32 principles? It's a lot. And each one of those principles has a catalog full of purposes for which the same principle can be used to achieve the apex principle, which is?
Efficiency.
Is that what you're telling us, Hidon and Henner? The answer is yes. So in this world of principles, the opportunities are vast.
Yes.
And the whole objective right now is to develop your relationship with each one of these principles and strengthen those relationships by truly understanding the vastness of the possibilities when it comes to purposes, the whys, whether it's balance manipulation, tourniquet pressure, right? Survival, strike avoidance, momentum, the purposes. You want to develop a very strong relationship with the purposes, all of them, for which each principle can be utilized and called on for, okay? Because if you do, this is the key of the whole thing, you guys. Once you accomplish this task of investing in the relationships with each principle and their vastness, then the likelihood of your ability to call on those principles in a time of need, in an improvisation required situation, that opportunity, that likelihood of you being able to call on it successfully, to deal with an unknown situation naturally, efficiently, and ultimately effectively, that is the most important thing. But here's the catch. You can't invest in relationships with principles that you don't even know exist.
Got it. So now they're learning. They're learning that these exist.
Yes.
That these principles exist. But let's go back to the original question, which is talking about naturals.
Right.
What makes someone a natural and someone doesn't get the natural,
Good point.
label?
That's a great
And
question.
back to it boils down to principles. So we have students of ours in this building around the world that they have figured it out. There's something about how they move and there's like, they figured it out. And what they did was how they look at jiu-jitsu. It's been discussed briefly, but they look at it in a way of, this is just so simple. They did not watch this course. They don't have access to this.
No.
They just
It
saw
didn't
a
exist.
lot of information and they took the 2 or 3 or 4 principles that made that technique possible. And many of them did this almost Because they needed to, out of survival. Sometimes when you're presented with a technique, it's just so much information to be able to stay on the mat and not explode, not have your brain explode. You have to kind of release this idea of having to retain the 15, 20 steps for a technique. So out of survival, certain personalities said, you know what, this can be simpler.
And they made it simpler.
And they made it simpler, and they then get the title or the label of being a natural.
And that's exceptional, you guys. This is unique, and it's exceptional. Most people, I'd say 93, I'd say 97 to 99 are not naturals, and they don't have this ability to look at a 15-step technique without ever seeing the 32P course, without being told that it needs to be simpler, just them watching on their own. They, on their own, went like this. 15 steps? No, I felt like it was pivot, frame, overload. Even with no labels. That's what makes it so hard.
Yes.
They didn't even have a naming convention, which is why this new course makes it so much easier for the remaining 99% of people to accomplish the same results, because there's a naming convention, and we're going to lay out all the purposes for you guys, which is the bulk of the work. These people did it on their own. It's remarkable. And now some people, long enough on the mat, they eventually figured this out. But what we're saying is, at a time when they need it most, white, blue, early purple, most people are still struggling to stay afloat because they think that jiu-jitsu is simply come to class, memorize a bunch of techniques, go home, forget them all, show up the next day, and do it again. And it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that, you guys.
So this course is for the 99%.
Yes.
The 99% who would probably be very concerned and trying to remember every step.
detail.
We're trying to do a little shift in the way that you look at things so that you can also pretty much hack. And you can crack the code and start principle-based learning and principle-based application of your techniques now.
What the naturals are doing naturally, which makes them exceptional, you're going to do systematically. Right? You're going to learn the process that they're using, and we're going to apply that to your jiu-jitsu, and everything will change. The best analogy is the bank account analogy. Some of you may have heard this before. If you haven't, it's the one that matters. Think of every single one of the 32 principles as its own bank account. Now, what's rule number 1 about a bank account? You can't make deposits into an account that doesn't exist. You have to go to the bank and, I want to open an account. Okay, cool. Once it's open, you can make deposits. So first step is open the accounts for the 32 principles. And this is what's accomplished in the 32 principles of jiu-jitsu course. Part 1, 8 principles. Part 2, part 3, part 4. The entire course, that's exactly what we do. We open accounts for you and with you for every one of the 32 principles of jiu-jitsu.
So how do we open accounts? A lesson, for example, we will to have 3 or 4 examples of a principle being used.
For different purposes.
Different purposes, different positions.
Just like we did.
Some will be basic, some will be kind of intermediate, some will be very advanced variations. So that way you can say, wow, okay, I got this principle. I speak the language now. I know what we're talking about. I know what to look for.
And this is what separates this course from everything else that's been done regarding principles. There's been some talk, and even some people who've written down principles. The problem is, if you write down and you know the name of a principle, that's just one step. The real growth comes when you start to connect to the vast number of purposes for which that singular principle can be used for, and no better way than to see. So we literally, like Hidon said, here's the concept, like philosophically, what the principle is, and then let's get right into different techniques, standing, ground, guard, top, bottom. You're going to see a variety of purposes for which that same principle can be applied for, and you're going to go, okay, I'm starting to get the vastness of this. And then we make it very clear that that's just the beginning of your principle exploration, because every single lesson also includes research objectives for that, like homework for that principle.
Yes.
You got to do work.
And the fun kind of homework.
Yes, not the high school kind of homework.
Because not the high school kind. Because once you understand the principle, now you're like, hold on. Where have I already been using this principle?
Without even knowing.
Not being aware of it.
Right?
So you're going to go back and you're going to research just exactly what your relationship with this principle really is, and you're going to bring it all to light.
we're going to teach you 3 things. Number 1, how to go back to all the techniques that you've ever learned and identify techniques that already use the principle exactly as they're taught. We call those as-is techniques. Then we're going to talk to you about techniques you've learned that you are going to make better through enhancements by using that principle that you just learned. That's a requirement, right? Your homework for every single lesson. It's 3 as-is techniques, 3 enhanced techniques. You got to make them better. So you've already learned it, but you have to improve it with that principle. And then 3 discovered techniques. These are just techniques that you've either made up or learned from a completely different source or like somewhere else in jiu-jitsu universe. Techniques that are out there in the world. You got to go discover 3 more that utilize this principle so you can bring them into your life. And by doing those 3 types of reflecting and discovery and going through that process, man, you're going to be like, the only thing left to do is principle-based sparring.
What does that mean? Pivot, for example. Imagine the whole sparring session where the pivot principle is the focus. Wait, you're telling me the pivot is more the focus than submitting my partner? Yes. It's more the focus than defending against your partner's submission. Everything is about basically seeing, acknowledging, seeing, and identifying the principle throughout your role. And there are times where you will use the principle against your opponent. There are times where they will apply the pivot principle, for example, against you. And that is that's you studying it in your sparring. Yeah, and when you get choked with that killer B choke, for example, pivot. The person pivots, you tap. The feeling is not, I got tapped out. The feeling is, wow, they just used the pivot principle. Oh my gosh, look at the amount of leverage, the amount of pressure they're able to generate. And that's just one example.
So the point, he don't said it in the beginning. The pivot principle becomes the top victory in every spar is, did you pivot? Did they pivot? Did pivots happen? Number 1. And then number 2 is the idea that you spar for a period of time where that's all that matters. And you don't care if the pivot was used for you or against you. As long as there were pivots, you grew. And that's principle-based sparring. And imagine that. You have a whole period of several weeks where we're going to recommend that exclusive sparring focus is going to be the pivot principle when you get to principle 22.
And 7 weeks is not a long time.
I didn't say 7, I said several.
Several.
Yeah.
Several weeks is not, a week, 2 weeks is not a long time to dedicate to this. This is how we grew up training.
Targeted sparring. And some people think
very
targeted.
Specific.
And some people think they already do targeted, like, oh, we spar arm bars only, or we spar chokes only, or we spar leg locks only. You're missing the boat.
Yeah, it could be a little more targeted.
It depends. You target your sparring based on what you want to master. And if you want to master arm bars, then fine. Keep chasing arm bars. Good. If you want to master jiu-jitsu, the whole thing,
then you want to target some principles.
You want to target all the principles and give them all their respect and their time that they deserve to really become part of you. Now, after 2 to 3 weeks of sparring every day with only pivot's in your system. So when you advance to the next principle, it goes with you. All right, we're getting carried away. The point is, the first step of the whole bank account is open the account. The next step is to make deposits into said bank accounts for each of the 32 principles. 32 separate accounts. They each need their own deposits. Now, how does that happen? Well, guess what? Fortunately for you, deposits happen automatically. Assuming the account is open, you've opened the account, and you have conscious interactions with the principle. Explain what a conscious interaction is versus one that is come and go.
There are some times where we land in a position and we might become very emotional and we're not even quite present in what is happening to us. So you need to be conscious. You need to be very aware of what's happening so that when it happens, whether it's for you or against you, you can say, oh, wow, look, there was the principle being utilized.
Love that. And here's the beauty, friend. Just to be clear, what an interaction means is this. Let's say we're drilling a technique, killer B choke. And I spin every rep that I do where I'm thinking to myself, I'm pivoting and I'm tightening this rope around his neck.
Every time you're paying attention.
So but my point is, and to the principle, that's the key. Paying attention to your teacher, you guys have done that for years and haven't absorbed the principles. What we're saying is once the principle exists and you know the name, you know what you're practicing, and you're practicing deliberately to invest in that principle, every repetition counts as $1 deposited. Let's just keep it simple. Every rep, 10 reps, $10 in that account. Now here's what's crazy. If you watch a YouTube video and someone's teaching the killer B choke, that counts. If you watch a UFC fight and someone does a anaconda choke and they pivot around someone's neck in the anaconda, and as a result they create the tourniquet that makes someone go unconscious, you're going to say pivot principle. Because right now when they watch UFC, they go like this. They did an armbar. He did an omoplata. He did a choke. They like to talk like that. It goes deeper. When you speak 32P, when you watch UFC, nobody knows except for you and me. That was just kind of a dope
That
line that I
was
dropped
great.
in, but it's not really what I meant. The point is, your language changes when you speak 32P because you start calling out principles, not just techniques. Anaconda, everybody knows, but the tourniquet caused by the pivot principle, they're going to go, what do you mean? And you say, come here, give me your neck.
Even the absence of a principle will eventually begin to be recognized.
And be a deposit.
And be a deposit.
Oh my gosh, the absence of money creates money, you guys. The point is this, whether you're watching, whether you're doing, whether it's being done on you, every one of those counts as $1 deposited in the account.
And why do you want to make so many deposits?
Thank you, guys. This is the whole point, you guys. We make all the deposits for one reason, so that when we need some money, we can make that withdrawal. You guys, that's it. You put money in the bank so that when you need it, it's there. This is life lesson. 32P is life. So the point is this. You're making deposits so that when you land, invariably, which happens to us every day, in a situation or technique or position where you don't have a technique that you've learned, you've never learned to move from there. When you land in that position or situation, you can call on the principles to save you in that situation. Save you from what? Wasteful energy use, submissions, right? Technique, sweep, whatever their objective is, but at the very least, save you from wasting energy and panicking. 32 principles are going to be available for you. What happens is this. You land in the unknown situation and your body, this is automatic for the 32 principles.
Remember,
crowd.
it was conscious observation of the principles being used.
Yes.
But now it's going to be unconscious
Withdrawals.
deployment
Good point.
of the principles.
That's a great point. So the deposits are conscious. The withdrawals are subconscious. Your money sits in the bank, and when you need it, it's right there, right behind you. So here's how this goes down, you guys. When Hidon or I or anyone else who speaks 32 principles lands, and this is all the top elite black belts and instructors and affiliate leaders of the world, they may not call them the same names, but they all live by the 32 principles, even if they don't know it, because that's the only way that you create new jiu-jitsu. So we're speaking not just for us, but for all of them. And you guys have all seen this in your master instructors. They land in a situation, we land in a position, what happens is called a 32 principles diagnostic. It's an automatic process where my body and my mind work together to run an assessment to determine in that position, based on what my objective is. Let's say my objective is escape. All of a sudden, my body and mind start firing through all the principles that exist. And then suddenly, tick, 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 3 of them are identified as possible. And then what happens is we go, all right, this one, and right now we deploy them. And what's realized very quickly is, oh, this one, if I do that, it's going to leave me exposed to get punched. So I only have this one and this one are the 2 left. So you use those 2, and between those 2, you make an escape happen. And sometimes an escape requires 2 principles used, or 3 or 4 or 5.
Yes.
But that diagnostic happens. Some principles are released at the moment where you realize that it's not the exact outcome you want. And before you know it, you formulate a situation, a technique, an improvisation in that situation that you never did before in your life.
What?
And it's when it happens to me, I'm like, whoa, I just did that. When students see it, they go like this, son of a gun, Henner, how did you just think of that? And what's funny is sometimes I'll act, I'll be like, no, it's just, it's just a move. I just,
That's what I do.
But the reality is, and we often tell our students, just to be nice, I go, guys, I just made that up right now. Because I want to encourage them, like, look, jiu-jitsu is there to be developed.
Yeah, we tell them to be nice, but also for another reason we'll discuss in a moment. But yes, it just happens naturally.
It's just natural, you guys. And we had one a week or 2 ago, remember? We had JP, our friend, John Paul, professional fighter, and amazing friend of ours, was here the other day, and he's talking about this Buggy Choke. You all heard this Buggy Choke. You've seen it on Instagram. It's this new choke that's taking over jiu-jitsu right now, and kids are using it.
over.
It's exciting. Anytime a brand new choke completely shows up, and when I say brand new, I didn't mean someone hasn't done it in a shack somewhere a long time ago. I'm just saying it surfaced.
Hit the mainstream.
It hit the mainstream, this Buggy Choke.
Yeah.
And John Paul was catching everybody in it, and then he came over here and was like, look, he's catching everybody, showing us his new move that he's using. And
naturally, thanks to my grandfather, Elliot Gracie, when I see someone doing something,
let's show him the choke first.
My first thought is, let me feel that choke.
So Hidon ran a survival diagnostic against the Buggy Choke, you guys, that you're going to love. But let me start by just showing the actual technique, Hidon. So here's the actual Buggy Choke. Some of you guys, don't live on Instagram, so you may have never seen this. But imagine I'm in bottom side control, and Hidon has optimal hand positioning right here, right? I'm going to show you the basic application, which is he's here. All I have to do is get this arm over his head and under my own leg. So, look at that. 1, triangle, 2. And from here, by just holding this leg, either here or if you're really long, bicep. Depends. If he was super lanky and skinny, I could go even here. But look, you get under, you lock, and you grab your own hand. And right now, I'm just going to flex my left rib cage a little, my lats, and my intercostals, and I'm gonna flex my left hip and my left femur, and I'm just hugging very gently, and give it a few seconds, and he's gone. Tell him, like, in terms of like the realness of that choke.
Yeah, in terms of what I feel,
You're gonna go out.
It's a different kind of choke. It's not even just my neck. It's like my head's gonna explode.
Interesting.
The pressure is being blocked so well that I have like a little. I'm seeing little lights right now. It's very powerful.
People have passed out. It's being used in competition at the highest level, so it's a legitimate choke. There's no question about the legitimacy of the choke.
Now, what I imagine somebody would do.
This is what the world is doing defensively. If you just YouTube some videos, competition of it, you'll see what they try to do. And the two things they try to do are...
And the people that are getting tapped out,
Yes.
right, that are getting submitted and choked out, are probably doing these two things.
Well, and just to give it to their advantage, these people who are getting choked out maybe didn't know this choke until they got choked by it. So they're responding in the high-stress situation. And we're having a chance to analyze it here with no stress and air conditioning on, so it's different. But nonetheless, so arm comes over the head, and what people are naturally doing here is once this locks up and they get to here, so one thing is try to frame the neck, which is very hard to do. And another thing is they sit up and try to slip out the back. Like try to pull your head up. In fact, they even pick the people up sometimes, pick me up. And they're still holding. And then they're still passing out. So when you slip out, it actually gets tighter.
Yeah, they try to retreat.
Yes.
Push away and get away. Because when you're in trouble, that's a very common response. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. So check this out. So from here, when JP did this to Hidon, he came over. Hidon has never been in this choke. He didn't even know what the name was. He didn't know anything.
The only thing I had was I saw you were in it once.
He tapped me.
And he just did just to show you the squeeze.
I just tapped and I'm like, oh, it works. It's good.
You felt the squeeze.
And then Hidon saw it once.
I want to feel the squeeze.
He went in the same position and JP did this. Go, Hidon. You did what you did. Oh my gosh.
So right now, the amount of pressure that I feel is like 5%.
Yeah.
It's much less.
And I'm squeezing 100%.
Now, why is that?
So much so that it's cutting off the circulation to my arm, and I don't want to squeeze anymore. I'll let go.
And so why? Why is this?
Yes.
Starting with frames.
Yes.
I'm using my frames, the bones.
My forearms right here, I'm wedging his hip, and I brought my arm over his neck, not trying to frame his actual neck. Bring the arm over his head, pinning his head south a little bit. Maybe walking my hand south, walking my hand away. Now, on top of that, I'm also changing the posture.
I have to let go, but I'm going to keep my hands in this area.
So I'm changing my posture and Henner's, because he's flat on his back right here. But when I lean forward, it kind of rolls him on his side.
So this is the exact opposite of what people were typically trying, which is to pull out of the buggy choke, which caused it to get tighter. He's pushing into it, and like a Superman pushing off his feet, driving his chest. It completely kills the angle of my lat right here. Go back, bro. Like, I want my armpit touching your neck. You feel that's on your artery right there? I want that. So when you do the Superman and you go forward, it hurts this arm and it opens up his frontal artery structures there because he has two frames, one on my hip and one on my neck with his humerus bone and his forearm bones there, and he's splaying his weight forward. This is crazy, you guys.
So frame affecting his posture and the prevention principle.
Right, what's your mindset once you get in that position?
My mindset is not, I want to get away. My mindset is I want to prevent you from accomplishing that which you have planned. And what he has planned and what he wants is to close all of the area around my neck.
You guys, Hidon made that up a week and a half ago. On the spot. Now here's the crazy part. It doesn't mean someone else hasn't invented the same thing.
No, of course not.
All we're pointing to was Hidon's ability.
Well, and I didn't make it up. I didn't even make it up. I just put it together.
Channeled the principles to their fullest
because
potential.
These are things that I already knew.
Right.
I already knew these things.
Because you speak principles.
Yes, but I knew them in other positions.
Right.
I knew them for other purposes.
Right.
Maybe similar, but I've never been in that exact position before in my life.
There you go, you guys. So in terms of the bank account, Hidon, they're looking at this and going, man, but you know, Hidon can make Hidon Gracie can make that up. What about me? If I were to land a white or blue belt out there, if they were to land the same position, right? What are the odds that they came up with the same beautiful quality solution?
Yeah, it's very unlikely that someone who has been training for 6 months or 8 months, if you land in that position compared to me, what you come up with is probably not going to be as effective as what I came up with. And that's okay. And that's because I have made more deposits into these accounts. I've made so many deposits, so the quality of my improvisations is gonna be greater Now, as you make more deposits, so will the quality of your improvisations. They will also increase.
So there's the bottom line, you guys. More money buys better improvisation solutions when you need them the most. But you have to invest and make the deposits into each of these. You have to open the accounts and make the deposits when you don't need them, so that they're there when you do need them. Too much energy. You guys gotta come off this edge a little bit right now, but we need to talk about the implications that this discussion will have on how jiu-jitsu is practiced and taught all over the world.
Yeah.
Because if I'm a student, right now, and I'm watching this, the first question I have is, wait a minute, where have they been hiding this whole time? And how come this is not taught at my academy? How come my school does not teach the 32 principles, or at least a principle-based learning approach to jiu-jitsu? At my school, they teach new techniques every day. I forget them every day, and on we go and we live our lives. Yeah. Why is this the first time they're a little bit frustrated at us right now. They're a little bit angry at us right now. Like, I mean, I hope you guys forgive us because we're the ones here kind of like helping you out, but they're still like, we're just on the screen right now and they're upset.
No, it is true that most schools don't foster a principle-based learning environment. And why is that?
Yeah, well, I think
it starts with kind of
day one.
Day one, the student walks in the building.
Hi, I'm Henry Smith. Henry Garcia.
Henry Garcia.
That's my English name. Henry Garcia. And I'm Henry Garcia. It's my first time, and you're gonna mount on me.
And I'm going to teach you something. Matter of fact, do you know what to do from this position?
No, I don't know how to escape the mount.
I don't know. Okay, well, let me show you.
Show me.
Okay, and I show him the
Boom.
technique.
Trap and roll. Oh my gosh.
How do you like it, Henry?
I just got out from the bottom of it. Henry, I just got out from the bottom of a situation. I feel so empowered. It's amazing.
Did you ever imagine you would be able to escape
Not someone your size. That's crazy. It actually worked.
So,
oh my gosh. I just learned a solution to a problem I never knew I had, but I always felt I needed. That was amazing. I feel so empowered with what I just learned. So I love it.
Student, do you want more?
I would love more.
The student comes back for more.
Next day, how do I twist someone's arm? How do I escape a chokehold? How do I get out of a headlock? So what happens is this relationship between student and teacher creates a very interesting dependency, a codependency, right? For the student, they become dependent on the teacher for extrinsic solutions to their own personal fighting problems, right? I come to school, I expect to have a problem presented and you to give me an answer. So basically, the creativity to solve problems does not lie within. It's without. And then I absorb it, but it's yours.
And rightfully so, because you walk into a building. I don't know anything. My name's on the wall.
True, you're the
master. My picture's on the wall. I got the belt. You know nothing, and I taught you something.
So it makes sense in the beginning.
It makes perfect sense.
Just to get the feet wet.
And me, the teacher, when I teach you something, I feel like, there's a sense of purpose.
And pride.
Pride. It feels very good to be the distributor of truth, of jiu-jitsu, of technique. You look at me now.
Safety, freedom.
Like in your picture of what jiu-jitsu
this is the man right here.
I am jiu-jitsu to you. Now, so there it is. So I feel good giving, and you want to keep asking.
I'm addicted to the solutions on the asking side.
You're going to ask forever, and I'm going to give forever.
This right here, you guys, this creates a serious concern. Because as long as I believe that the answers to my problems are someone else that has them, I will never search from within to discover the solutions to my problems. And here's the other problem. As long as Hidon feels that his value as a teacher is entirely, essentially contingent on my neediness of him for solutions, then he will never encourage for me to look for solutions outside and on my own.
And from the answers that I provide. My value comes from the answers that I provide, the techniques.
There you go.
The step-by-step techniques.
So this is how it might normally happen. Watch this. We're going to paint a situation. Let's say I'm practicing this Americana arm lock on my partner. This is how a non-32 principles instructor would approach a situation. Non-certified, non-32, normal BJJ instructor who's never learned how to nurture that explore the principle-based learning environment. So I'm over here doing a new Americana, and I'm over here. Hey, coach, check this out. When I do the Americana, it works like this better than when I do it like this. It works better.
Yeah, well, it's not that good because it's not as efficient and it requires too much strength.
All right. You guys, what just happened? I deviated from the technique he taught me, and I did a slight modification.
Took a lot of courage.
Incredible courage to even propose an idea that wasn't my teacher's.
Well, deviating took courage.
Oh my gosh.
And then coming and showing me.
My brain took courage, and then I had to ask my teacher to verify it, and then he came over and said, no, that's not going to work. and it's probably not going to work because it requires too much strength. And against someone bigger, or if they were punching you, it probably wouldn't work if they were striking at the back of your head. Now, whatever.
It's actually true.
It may be true.
It is true.
It may be.
It's 100% true. The way you're doing it took too much strength, and it probably wouldn't work.
Let's assume it was true.
But that doesn't matter.
Interesting.
That doesn't matter.
So your intentions
are good
to help me.
Yes, I really want to help you.
There you
I
go.
know.
So in the best of intentions can come the worst of interaction practices.
Now, the instructor that answered, they didn't even answer from their knowledge of steps. They also answered from their understanding of the principles.
Interesting.
But they weren't in a position to see what was happening in that moment.
Yes.
And what was happening in that moment is that this student, like we said, they had the courage to go out and explore. And then they had the courage to bring it to the instructor. So by me answering that way, when is the next time this student's going to come to me and say, hey, look at something I stumbled across. It's been working well for me.
Never. Because not only did he shoot my technique down, he shot through the technique, the paper target, and he hit my soul. And by my soul, I mean the principle-based explorer in my DNA got shot out of the sky before we ever even knew it existed. And that's when all the students retreat back to this notion that the teacher is the master and has all the answers to all of my problems.
There it is. And that's what we want to do. This course, this whole day today is about unlocking your souls.
There you go.
That's it. We want you to have that freedom.
So what are the two things we need to actually do?
Let's go through it.
So first for students, action items. Students, you need to absolutely permit yourself to think outside the box. If there's a technique and you have, what about this? What about that? Always what if and what about, and always questioning and always asking, always exploring. So absolutely start thinking and believing that the answers are within you. They're not always outside. So right before you say, teacher, come see this new American, or teacher, for example, let's say you're having trouble with the Americana, it's not working. Instead of saying, teacher, why isn't it working? We want you to say, wait a minute. Let me try. Let me explore. Let me modify. Let me adapt to my body, to my situation. So before you go out, go in for the answers. That's the first step.
When you're saying the answers are within you, you mean based off of what you've been feeling and experiencing over the last couple months and years and so on.
Call on anything you've got.
Yes.
The point is, start within. That's a very good action item. Now, teachers, what can you do to not shoot through the target?
Do the move again.
Annihilate the principle-based learner's soul.
Do the move again.
I'm over here with this over here. Coach, I was having trouble with that variation, so I changed it, and I'm doing it like this now. Check this out.
You changed it, huh? Well, how does it work for you?
It's feeling really good right now, Coach.
Is it working well?
It's feeling great.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad it's working.
Great.
Now I have a question for you.
Yes.
Have you tried it against Armando over there? He's much bigger, heavier, and stronger than you are.
Actually, that would be a great idea.
Go try it on him one time.
Love that idea. Let me go over there. Let me let you know how it goes. Boom. Did it on Armando. And it didn't work. Let's just say it didn't work. Why was that 10 times better?
Because I allowed you to continue
Yes.
your curiosity, your exploration. I allowed you to continue being...
Not only allowed, you encouraged
I
it.
encouraged
You sent me to go explore further.
Continue to be. It's looking like you're becoming a little scientist right there. Continue to become that scientist. Go try Armando one time. Or whenever you feel comfortable.
The thing is this. He don't knew when I was doing it that it wouldn't work on someone bigger. Let's just say that's the truth. When he saw it. Instead of saying that won't work on someone stronger and shooting through my soul, he said, hey, go try it on Armando. So that when I go over there as a continued encouraged explorer, I come to my own realization that that technique does not work on guys 100 pounds heavier than my skinny training partner.
And then when you tell me that, I say, oh, that's great. I'm glad you figured it out.
Now here's what's so wild, you guys. This would be so amazing if all teachers would encourage the exploration like this, and all students would ask from themselves before asking from the world. Right? But here's the thing. The enabler that will make this possible for the largest number of people in the shortest amount of time are the 32 principles. Here's why. When the student and or the teacher think that techniques are the beginning and end of jiu-jitsu, everything rides on that particular technique. So when you show a technique, It's the Bible. It's the Bible. It's the move. It's everything about jiu-jitsu. And when you teach that, if I do something different, I'm offending your religion.
Yeah, you're disrespecting me.
Disrespecting
you're not
your move.
honoring the move that I taught in this building and disrespect to the mat.
This is all anchored in the fact that he don't believes that techniques are the beginning and end of jiu-jitsu.
The steps.
What's beautiful is that when you remove yourself from that mindset and you graduate to the belief that principles are the beginning and the end of jiu-jitsu. They're the roots. The leaves come and go. The branches come and go. The roots stay the same. Once that's accepted by a student, what they realize is the second they have trouble with the technique, they're quick to say, wait a minute, but if I adhere to these 32 principles, they run a diagnostic the way you did Buggy Choke, I can do this instead. Boom, we're good to go. And I modify because I'm empowered to know that something that I have knowledge of, the principles that I have knowledge of, can free me in otherwise challenging situations. That's my benefit as a student.
Now, as an instructor, when I communicate, when I teach techniques, I'm talking about principles as well.
Yes.
I'm including the conversations. Once in a while, I include what principles are being discussed.
Boom.
And when I do this, what happens? The students realize, wow, there's something more than the 15 steps that he just showed us. And they potentially grab onto those the same way student P did earlier. So when they grab those, so now one day when the student comes to me and says, you know what, I'm doing it a little different. I changed the move.
Interesting.
Which really sounds like, wow, you changed my move because I'm identified. It's my
Teacher
technique.
A and Teacher P.
Yes, Teacher P now. So I let go of that. It's not my move. Every move is my move.
Because
every principle is my principle. I own the principles. I am the principles. I am the moves. I'm everything. So with that energy,
When I do the
what
move slightly
happens?
different.
When you do it different, I show up and I say, wow, I'm so glad that you figured it out. You're utilizing the principles. That's amazing. How is it working
So
for
beautiful.
you? I actually take pride.
Because they learn not just the technique, they learn much deeper than the technique, the principles that make it work.
I'm proud, not offended. Simply because I'm identified to you as my student. Because I want you to be better than me. We hear this all the time. I want the student to outgrow me.
Yes.
But it's easy to kind of forget how exactly to help the student outgrow you.
Right.
And what we're saying right now is the number one way is to release them and release your hold on them having to do the moves the way that you showed it.
Yes.
Release. Now,
So that's so powerful, you guys.
when you know, back to the original thing, students will do the moves wrong.
Yes.
And we want to help the students do the techniques not wrong. We want to help them do the techniques more effectively, efficiently. We want to help them.
Yes.
So we can't always just say, oh, that's great. It works for you. Great. There's a time to say, hey, check it out. Try it like this.
Yes.
But the point is to bring questions, is to really come with an open mind and be open to the fact that it might have to change a little bit and work with the student. And this is going to unlock them. And that's the whole purpose of today.
Whether you're the student or the teacher, right? The enabler to transition into student P or teacher P are the 32 principles. Because then you realize that techniques, they're just the middlemen. They aren't the beginning or the end. They aren't the true source of jiu-jitsu. They're just singular, specific manifestations or coming togethers of specific 2, 3, 4, or 5 principles. But you take those same principles, apply them to a new situation, you got a new technique. The principles don't change. The technique leaves, come and go with the season and with the wind, you guys. And you don't want to be a student of techniques that are coming and going. You, as quickly in your jiu-jitsu as possible, want to anchor into these 32 micro principles, pivot being one of them, frame, pivot is number 22, frame is number 10, overload is 24. So we dabbled right now. And here's the problem with all this. You can choose never to learn the principles and never to be a principle-based student, right, for life. You can choose not to adopt this method of learning and this filter on jiu-jitsu, and no one's going to bother you. No one's going to tell you you have to quit because you don't understand principles. No one's going to kick you out of your school. You just keep coming and chugging and chugging and chugging along, learning moves and forgetting and learning and forgetting, and live on with your merry life. You have the right to do that, right? Or you have the right to say, no, I want to have a new lens on jiu-jitsu. I want to see jiu-jitsu for what it is at its core, and I want to be able to watch every technique from this point forward. And when I watch something, it's not just quick entertainment like candy viewing. Oh, a new move, cool, gone. No, Every watching is a deposit. That even if you forget the technique, the deposit, the dollar still sits in your bank. Even when that video is long gone, because of how you interacted with the YouTube video, the deposit will remain long after the video is gone. The chef in the kitchen. You guys, analogies on top of analogies, right? But sometimes they work, right? Forgive us. The chef in the kitchen isn't a master chef because of how many recipes he or she has memorized. That's not how you classify a master chef. The master chef is the master because of their mastery of the ingredients in the kitchen. They know salt, they know garlic, they know tomatoes, they know onion, they know this, they know pepper. They know those ingredients and all the purposes for which those ingredients can be called on for. And salt doesn't just have one purpose. You can use salt for a variety. Depending what combination you use it in with other principles, it can have a totally different effect or taste in the final recipe. And if you ask a chef, what would you rather retain? The 1,000 recipes that you've memorized because you've been around the game for so long, or the 32 ingredients that you've mastered your comprehension and your relationship with that you can call on at any given time? Those crazy TV shows of chefs, right? Top Chef, whatever they are on the networks. You watch those Top Chef shows, and what do? They give them a bunch of ingredients and say, go. That's why the best man wins or best woman, because they know those ingredients from their own kitchens. And it doesn't matter what situation you put them in, the improvisation capability of a master chef is limitless because the ingredients have been mastered. And this is where we sit, ladies and gentlemen.
I feel like what you're saying is that if you had to choose between the hundreds of techniques
Thousands,
that we know,
bro. You kidding me?
thousands of techniques that we know,
and more every day coming in,
or our understanding of the 32 principles is not even a question. We choose the 32 principles because those are the principles that allow us to create the amazing recipes that we apply every day on and off.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we'd like to transition into unveiling, talking briefly about those 32 ingredients of the Jiu-Jitsu kitchen. We're going to briefly go through these because you're going to have access to them on GracieUniversity.com, the32principles.com. They're released today, the first 8 principles, starting with
the connection principle.
Right.
It's your ability to promote, predict movement by different ways of connecting to your opponent.
And we've identified 32 distinct methods. This is a total coincidence, by the way. The craziest of all time.
32 ways to connect.
32 anatomical, like ways, physical ways to connect. We're talking about wrist, forearm, radius, ulna, elbow pit, elbow, bicep, tricep, every body part. When you add them all up of how to connect someone, there are 32, and we identify those in the first one. Then we talk about detachment. And this is the idea. Just as connection is important, knowing when to let go is so important in jiu-jitsu because sometimes you hold on for too long and you miss the opportunity. You have to know when to let go.
The distance principle, neutralizing what your opponent is doing to you by messing with the distance between you and your opponent.
Historically, we talk about this in punch protection situations, but you guys are going to understand in this principle, it's everything.
Everywhere.
Every submission, every sweep, street sport, distance is in every technique. Knowing how to disrupt it, to disrupt your opponent's effectiveness is so critical. The pyramid principle. This is one people talk about balance, base in jiu-jitsu, the pyramid, 3 points of contact. This is the pyramid principle. We love this principle. And here's what's beautiful that you'll learn in the lesson is it's not just balance on the ground and on top of someone. The pyramid is also a way of controlling someone in the vertical plane, not just the horizontal plane, but the vertical plane. When your guard is getting passed, you need to use pyramid structures, at the very least 3 points of contact, preferably 4, but 3 at least, to maintain enough flat plateau surface area of blocking prevention that you can help reduce their chance of passing your guard or any other passing attempt. The point is, pyramids are not just vertical, they're also operating in the horizontal plane.
The creation principle. How many times have we done a specific action to create a reaction?
Yes. Poke here, I do this. Yes. Exactly.
You do. This is very much like the black belt kind of cat and mouse.
Yeah, I love it.
Playing with the person by doing a specific action to create a reaction.
We call it being first and being third. Our friend Jay likes to say that a lot. So then we talk about the acceptance principle, right? You can create, you can also accept. The first one, to accept the inevitability of an outcome in jiu-jitsu, is the one who will be most prepared for that outcome, if that makes sense. So you have to know when to just yield sometimes in a situation, and the acceptance principle teaches just that.
The velocity principle. So this is you changing your operational speed. Sometimes you move very, very fast. Sometimes you slow down. And when you do this, how it disrupts your opponent is in so many different ways.
Yeah, if you have a foot race, whoever says go has the advantage in a foot race. And then the clock principle, disrupting the timing of your opponent's techniques. Literally just throwing it off by a few seconds can have, whether it's a submission, a counter, whether it's an escape that you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to accomplish, if you know how to disrupt your opponent's clock in the same position opposite you, you can really take advantage of that momentary disruption and that momentary confusion that causes.
So by far one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
Clock principle, the ability, we're controlling time.
Yes.
Which you shouldn't be able to control time, but we can control time with the clock
So
principle.
these are the principles for part 1 that you're going to have access to today. This is going down, you guys. And today, 25% off today only, right? We talk about the handbook that comes with your 32 Principles Part 1. We talk about the Street Choke Mastery Seminar. All that is right now and today. And the Maldives lottery, you jump in for the vacation of a lifetime. All of that right now at the32principles.com. And again, over 25% off, but that's today only. Now, Part 2. The principles of the 32 Principles, Part 2, 8 more principles, starting with principle number 9, right? After the first 8, and these will come out in the months to come. Principle number 9, the river principle. We love this, you guys. Simply put, as the water's flowing down the river and the rock appears, the river does not bother with the rock. The river only cares about where the rock is not. How to apply that concept in jiu-jitsu, we're going to talk about, you're going to become masters of.
Frame principle. Get rid of the muscular strength and use structural frames. That's the frame principle number.
That was principle 10.
That was principle 10.
Principle 11 is the Kazushi principle. This is a concept heavily discussed in judo, right? In Japan, the Kazushi is a Japanese word, means the breaking of balance. So in any given situation, it's essentially the opposite of the pyramid principle,
Yes.
right? But when you understand Kazushi, you understand what to do, what limb to remove, how to change their energy, whether it's moving their center of gravity, eliminating a base point, or a combination thereof. Essentially, every sweep or takedown is a Kazushi, or reversal is a Kazushi principle application of some kind. Once you learn to think about it in that light, you become much better at removing yourself from underneath subjects.
The reconnaissance principle, principle number 12, your ability to go out there and gather information, because every position you land in, something happens. And you go there again, and you just constantly gathering information to then take it and reapply it however you see fit.
Principle 13, the prevention principle. You guys, this is Hidon 101. I should let him talk about it, but I will because I'm the victim of it most often. Prevention principle is rather than focusing on what you want to accomplish and go, it's this idea of stopping progress. And too often we think that in order to be progressing, we have to be attacking. But the prevention principle teaches that, man, if I just stop him from achieving his objective, it can yield the greatest gains in a particular situation if you know how to use the prevention principle effectively.
Principle number 14, the tension principle. Sometimes we apply tension, sometimes we release the tension, and how we can use tension to defeat our opponent, the possibilities are endless.
Yes, the fork principle, you guys. Next principle, the fork 15, powerful. What this teaches is that don't aim to achieve submissions. I don't want to choke or an arm lock. I want to choke that if the person defends that choke, they get caught in the arm lock automatically. So you aim to create dilemmas in the fight where if your opponent does this, they're done. If they defend and do this, they're also done. So the pursuance of these forks, sometimes one prong, sometimes two prongs, sometimes it's a submission and a submission, sometimes it's a submission and a sweep. It can be different. Sometimes it can be 3 options that are pending depending on how they respond. That's what you want to aim at the highest level of jiu-jitsu to achieve those forks.
I'm sure many of you have felt like you were in this fork trap position, especially when you train with people who are more experienced than you are. You're like, man, if I go left, I'm done. I go right, I'm done. Just different ways of losing.
You're trapped.
Number 16, the posture principle. This is posture.
Yeah.
There is an ideal posture for every single position, every person, every technique.
Buggy choke. There was an ideal posture.
How can we get in the way? How can we take away that posture from our opponent? And we take the posture away, the whole move crumbles.
Right. Number 17, you guys. This is part 3 now. Part 3, principle 17 through 24. Principle 17, the false surrender principle. An original concept that we started really heavily investigating in the Women Empowered program, but now has applications, always had, but now we realize the extent to which these applications are universal across jiu-jitsu, and really it's the mindset that, right, what we do in any given situation is heavily contingent on the mindset and the actions of the opponent. And if I can trick Hidon into doing something by falsely surrendering a grip, energy, a breath, a posture, thing. And then cause him to respond to that, and then take advantage of that opportunity that he created because I baited him into that situation. That's the false surrender principle. We're going to talk about all the implications.
Huge. Principle 18, the depletion principle. One of my favorites. The idea of physically or mentally depleting your opponent's resources. How can you behave so that whether it's 30 seconds from now or 2 minutes down the road or 5 minutes, your partner, your opponent is just spent. They're exhausted. The depletion principle.
Number 19, the isolation principles, ladies and gentlemen. This is the idea of isolating. Like, take the limb and put that limb in prison. Take it away. So whether it's a limb, lower body, upper body, a neck, a part of their body, the idea of divide and conquer is really the idea here, is that by isolating limbs away from their body, you can create limb advantages, and then the targeting of a submission becomes so much easier because they have so much less to work with.
Something you do to me all the time is always isolating my arms, and it's very frustrating.
I don't want the choke. I want your arms not to be able to defend the choke when I impose it. So I fight your defense mechanisms before I pursue the attack that I ultimately want to achieve.
No one likes having a limb isolated or anything isolated. The sacrifice principle.
Number 20.
Sacrificing something of value or even perceived value. What can you sacrifice to kind of one-up your opponent? So I give a little something, they think it has tremendous value, they go for it, and then before you know it, it allows for my escape, and now I'm in a dominant position.
But let's be careful how we play with fire, because sometimes you sacrifice too much and you get caught as a result. So it takes mastery. We're going to work on that in principle number 20. 21, momentum. Pretty self-explanatory. We talked about it today, the use of that pivot to generate momentum. But basically, we're going to find all the positions in the fight where momentum is available, and we're going to take full advantage of it.
Principle number 22, the pivot principle.
We don't even have to talk about it.
We talked about it.
You guys already opened your bank accounts. You already opened your pivot accounts. Now you got to open 31 others, but it's there.
Principle 23, tag along.
I love that.
Tag along.
Yo, hitchhike. If they're going to go somewhere, you might as well tag along. There are so many places in every position where the ability to simply connect with those 32 connection parts of our body, to be sticky and connect and ride along into a position, you can you save energy, you deplete, depletion principle, your opponent's energy, and ultimately, apex principle, efficiency. Tag along is efficiency.
Principle number 24, overload principle.
We talked about it a little bit today. The idea of applying disproportionate resources of ours against targeted, lesser empowered resources of theirs. So it's creating that advantage. It could be a hip against an arm. It could be two arms against one arm. Overload is anytime you call in the big dogs to target a part of their body, whether it's a limb for an isolation or a part of their body for a submission, like an arm bar, where your legs are holding their body, your arms are holding their arm. You're just overloading them to break their arm. So most submissions, you're overloading a joint or a neck with a lot of your body, but overloads aren't limited to submissions. Part 4. 8 final principles, you guys, starting with principle number 25.
Anchor.
Oh my
anchor
gosh.
principle.
One of the most annoying principles. That and prevention. So here's the cool part about anchors. Sometimes you're anchoring, right? I'm anchoring head-on to head-on. Other times I'm anchoring head-on to the ground. Other times I'm anchoring head-on to me. Do you guys understand? Other times I'm anchoring me to the ground, or me to head-on. I'm anchoring to him. So there's really 6 general anchor possibilities. We're going to show you all of them and show you the purposes, the variety of purposes for which anchors can be called on.
Some of my most fond memories of my grandfather are him showing me how he anchors.
That's so crazy, you guys. But he didn't call it that.
No. But he felt like he was anchored.
Yes.
I'm like, man, this guy is anchoring himself right now with my, 18-year-old mind.
Principle 25, anchor principle. Our grandfather was so heavy on that. Principle 26, the ratchet principle. What are you thinking about with the ratchet?
I'm thinking that the ratchet principle, this is, it's the idea of moving with tremendous control, making very small advancements, and not allowing any type of regression.
Or retraction.
But just very small movements and just clack, clack, advancing little by little. And it's kind of scary. Have you ever had someone applying the ratchet? I've had you do it to me. And I'm like,
it's
man.
It's like the water is getting like this. Look. And remember Titanic?
He's just creeping. It's creeping. And you don't even know what to do to avoid what is coming, the inevitable.
You guys, so the ratchet principle is just one of the ones, you guys. You never want to be the victim of it. You always want to be the perpetrator of the ratchet principle application.
Principle 27, buoyancy.
Think bubbles. Think an air bubble underwater. What is its tendency? To surface. It doesn't have a choice. It just does. So, but you guys have a choice. You can be buoyant in jiu-jitsu or you cannot be. But buoyancy comes with assets and liabilities. If you're buoyant when you shouldn't be, you get choked. If you're not buoyant when you could have been,
then you stay trapped.
You stay trapped underwater and you never reach the surface. Okay, so there's so many implications when it comes to the buoyancy principle. It's one of the most underutilized in the entire arsenal. We can't wait to share that one with you.
Principle 28.
Ooh, head control.
Head control.
Where the head goes, the body will follow. And where the head doesn't go, the body won't follow. Thank you very much. Principle 29, redirection.
That's all you're going to give, head control?
Come on, bro. They got to watch. We can't give it all away.
Redirection. Go. 29, redirection.
Redirection
Energy
principle.
is coming.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. At some point, you have a choice. Do you hit it head on, perpendicular, or do you... And there's two ways to redirect. Number one is to change the plane of contact. Number two is to introduce an intercepting force. Like, the comet in the sky, and another comet hits it, it's going to redirect that comet. But if there was a huge glass wall that was stronger than the comet would also bounce off the wall. So redirection principle is everywhere in jiu-jitsu.
In this family, and we're 14, 12 years old, we
Big
can't
time.
move our 17 or our 23-year-old opponents. We're moving ourselves. So how can you move yourself? And that's what mobility principle addresses.
There you go. 31, ladies and gentlemen, the center line principle. Interesting. What this teaches is that the body has a center line. And you can take your opponent's appendages and you can either break the center line where you force both of their appendages, it could be hands or it could be legs, into one quadrant. Okay, over here, upper north, left quadrant.
You kind of did to me earlier from the knee on belly.
Yes.
It was a little bit of center line action there.
Yeah, when I did my pivot frame overload from the knee on belly second demonstration for today's initial technique, I brought my chest and I smashed Hito's arm across his body. And at that point, he could not retract his arm at will, which means I controlled his center line. That was called a center line break. Very powerful for twisting arm controls and upper body submissions for the arm. Hickson loved this one, right? Choke back in the day. So he would submit so many guys with twisting arm controls when he'd punch and then he would get their arm across the center line. Guard passing. There are major implications when it comes to guard because you're going to take their legs, you're going to break the center line, and you're going to pass to the broken side. There's also incredible center line split opportunities. And that teaches when the arms are split apart, right? Whether it's a crucifix or like a back mount triple threat, where the arms are split and they cannot cross the center line
They
at
can't
will.
access the center line.
So basically...
And my neck is at the center line, and this guy's controlling the center line.
And attacking
controlling
the
my
neck.
arms and legs. Center line's exposed.
There you go. So when you own the center line, a lot of submissions, a lot of isolation principle opportunities kind of coincide with the center line. Just a beautiful principle. When you see it that way, that you want to break that center line or you want to split it and go down the center.